And we're back at WBAI, and we're blessed to have Billy Lyles with us today and giving us that version of Bessie's Blues, Coltrane's Bessie's Blues, or something like it. And I think you could hear the spirit of Train in that tune that he delivered. And now we're going to shift gears a little bit. We're going to go from the East Village. We're going to head uptown towards Yankee Stadium off the Grand Concourse in the Bronx. And we have Eric Capstick with us. And Eric was also featured in my character study column in the Times recently, or last weekend, in fact, for his job with the Yankees, filming fans at the baseball games and putting them up on the Jumbotron in real time between innings. Eric, are you with us?
Yes. Hey, Corey, how you doing?
How are you? Thanks for calling in and being with us this morning.
My pleasure. I love the show. First time I got to listen to it, and kind of patient since it started. So I'm psyched to be talking here a little bit now.
That's great. Yeah, thanks for calling in. So it's baseball season. So far it's a good season for both New York teams, and especially the Yankees. And we just wanted to get a little into your career with the Yankees. Of course, I made the mistake of comparing you to Derek Jeter in the column, which I really have to apologize publicly for, because it made its way into the headline, and now you're getting your chops busted by all the guys. They're calling you Jeter and Jeets and everything like that. But these things happen. This is the cost of fame, right? I mean, or infamy, as it were. I don't know.
I'll take it. It's a little over the top, but hopefully Derek, when I see him again, won't be too upset about it.
Well, how many? I mean, obviously you're a darling of the fans who know who you. I mean, they kind of know who you are. When I was following you around, these people know who you are as soon as you step down, into the stands. They know that here's the camera. We're gonna be on the big screen if this guy points the camera at us. So they're all kind of like clamoring for you. But you also know, the beer man, the security guy, the cops, the players on the field, and you really do know some of these players, right? I mean, from over the years, you've interacted with all of them, right? Or nearly a lot of them, right?
Yeah, by virtue of being around, there are some little interactions. I kind of like to call it hit and run as far as dealing with the players, because we're not really encouraged, to talk to the players, and they're busy, they're working. So I'll, for example, when Hideki was with the Yanks, I'd hit him with Genkareta, which is like, how you doing? It's like slang in Japanese, and get a little laugh out of them and then move on, So that's a lot of fun. But with the fans and the ushers and vendors and security, we have a lot of time through the course of the day to have like short little conversations. And I'm really into that social contact, and I'm kind of like into acknowledging people. And so if I recognize you, I'm going to say hello. And I feel like that kind of creates a little positive energy, and then I get the energy back from them. It's just a little smile in passing, stuff like that. Or sometimes, we'll be talking about the state of the Yankees and stuff like that. But it's a really stimulating environment. I get a ton of energy out of it, and there's just a lot of love in that building, really.
Right.
Love of baseball, and it's such a intense, like, kind of diverse group of people. It's really like a reflection of the melting pot, I think. And I just, think there's such a high quality of people working there, going to games, stuff like that. And it's like a time, you go to a baseball game, kind of everything else stops. You're there for this event, and everyone's kind of like, it's like an escape from the rigors of regular day life. And so it's a unique opportunity to have fun with people, really.
Right, and you really do. It's a tough job. I mean, it's a heavy camera you're carrying on your shoulder, and you're dashing all over the stadium, from the bleachers to the upper decks and the box seats and all. I mean, and through it all, you kind of still. It's almost a social endeavor for you as well. I mean, you really are chatting with people. You're seeing people that you know, and I love the chewing gum tradition where, I wondered what the heck you were doing when you were tossing things to people, and then you told me that. At batting practice or when you're on the field before the game, you grab a couple fistfuls of. You're always wearing those cargo shorts, and you throw them in the pockets, right. And then the rest of the time you have your ammunition, so you can toss the gum. We'll talk about tossing the gum and the degrees to which they can catch or not catch. You figure at Yankee Stadium, they're all going to be Golden Gloves, right? Or
I know. Well, that's only been going on for a couple of years, and I kind of took a calculated risk telling you about it. But I wasn't going to stop doing it, because we were doing the story. And it's just been a lot of fun. It's a diversion. It's like another way of connecting with people, and I'll surprise people sometimes. I'll throw it off of a wall, or sometimes some guys, or men and women, I'll go off of 2 walls. I just like, I kind of joke, and it's true. I think my data, unofficial data, would show that about half the people in the building can't catch. So we're and
I hope you're working on that. I mean, it's like almost like playing pepper, right? I mean, every day there's a little bit of a workout.
Yeah, we're definitely working on it, and sometimes, like, some people who are a little more challenged when they actually catch one, they're really thrilled and proud, and it's just a fun thing that I get to do, and I also chew a fair amount of it when I'm there, so that's, but anyway, it's a lot of fun, and yeah, so that's,
Eric, John McDonagh here. When you're running around, how aware of the game are you? And do you try to time some of the shots on the jumbotron to influence the game, or to get the crowd going, to maybe have the batter hit better? Do you have it that timed? Are you thinking that aware what the score is, what the inning is? Do you have that?
Yeah. Well. Yeah, I mean, we're trying to influence the game by, like, showing the fervency of the Yankee fans. So we want, like, really intense fans. And so, I guess to sort of indirectly, intimidate the opposition or whatever. We would never be blunt about it. We wouldn't show a sign that's, like, insults the Red Sox or something, because we don't want to inflame the opposition. But
maybe the Red Sox, right?
Yeah. Well, at the same time, if I saw you there with, like, a vest shirt and a cap on, I'd kind of shake my head, point to, my shirt, and show the Yankees thing. And, that'd be some nonverbal communication that I'm not going to put you up, because you're not putting Yankee fans up at Citi Field. So, there's that little repartee with the opposing fans as well. But as far as, like, I miss a lot of the game, because I'm walking around, and so I'll catch up. Something will happen. I'll ask someone, who hit that, or, I'll get updates from the crew. We have, like, a really cool and talented crew of, like, 20 people in the control room. So I'm sort of like the focal, not a focal point, but like the most visible, one of the more visible aspects of that. But there's all kinds of stuff going on in the background that people have no idea about. And sometimes I'll get updates from the guys on what just happened, stuff like that. And but I remember when Mariano Rivera was still playing, and at the old stadium, we developed this treatment when he would come out to close a game. And to your point, we would start with a tight shot of the scoreboard showing like a 2-1 score, and then slowly pull out and reveal Mariano trotting in while they were playing Enter Sandman. The place would go nuts, And so that was one way that a camera would tie in to the action of the game itself.
So you can kind of refract the fan energy, right? I mean, it's almost like, I think of it almost with mirrors or something, where it's almost like you can magnify that energy by putting it up on the scoreboard. Whatever the kind of exciting part is, you can kind of show it, and people could probably get more psyched up.
Absolutely. That's a really good way of putting it. And it kind of amplifies it, and other people feed off of it. And it's like going to be the surging energy. So I'm a big fan of fan shots, so I particularly enjoy that part. But we also do these rally videos that are really well crafted and dramatic, and then we'll kind of finish it off with some crowd shots before we go back to live action, and hopefully create an atmosphere where the Yanks will break through or hold on or whatever the case may be.
Yeah. Let me just pull away from the Yanks for a second, because you're a lifelong New Yorker. You grew up in the Village. In fact, we were just talking to Billy about his shop, and your mom ran Peanut Butter and Jane, right? It was very well known children's shop on. Well, you grew up on Jane Street. This was on Hudson, I guess, the shop itself.
Hudson and Jane. It was like a half block from our apartment. Yeah.
And you mentioned when I told you that I asked you to come on, you had mentioned that you took Frank McCourt's class at Stuyvesant when you were there, and we just had Malachy on. So tell us what it was like to take. This was before Frank was famous, right? I mean, before Angela's Ashes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What was it like taking his writing class?
Well, he was different than any other teacher I'd ever had. It was like kind of hanging out, with a group of people. With every class was just really kind of a humorous experience, not terribly structured. The one rule that I remember that no one else seems to remember, including Frank himself, is that Frank didn't want students to ask questions using the word why. He wanted you to find a more creative way of asking a question. And I asked him about that 25 years later, and he kind of nodded like it sounded like him, but he didn't remember it. And and none of my friends who've taken the time to remember that either. But I don't think I made it up, and I thought it was, and that stuck with me. I always thought it was, a cool way of looking at things. And so he was able to get, a lot deeper with the students, I think, and the discussion was like really elevated for like high school English class, and he was very close to a lot of us, and it was, I don't know, I think he really inspired a lot of us to pursue writing, and I know a number of his former students have been published and had success as writers. Back then I didn't really think of myself as a writer. I'm not, I write now, but I'm not like published. But I've been working on some memoir stuff over the years because my mother and I are like real pack rats, and I have all this great stuff. So I'm looking at the 1980 Stuyvesant yearbook called The Indicator. I was going through the yearbook a few years ago, and I was shocked to discover an inscription from Frank, because I didn't remember any of this. He said, "Dear Eric, jolly days, weren't they? And thanks for the piece you wrote about a weary Irish teacher of English. Good luck, Frank McCourt." And so that was a thrill to discover that. And actually, my stepfather, Tom Meehan, used to hang out, was friends with Malachy and Frank. And a few years ago, I was working on something called Travels with Tom, and he was working on a musical of Rocky. And going back and forth from the rehearsal studio, we would talk. So I was collecting all these stories. And he mentions Malachy in there, saying that they used to hang out with Frank at a place called Hell's Bells, where it's no longer around, but it's in the Village, and they were partaking 50-cent martinis, also at another joint called Ferry's, which is still around. But anyway.
Right. Well, that was one of Malachy's bars, right, John?
Yeah, that was Malachy's.
Yeah, I know he's listening. But,
was it? Okay.
Yeah, and that's great. One last thing about Frank. Did it surprise you when he started having his literary success? Did you guys as students have a feeling that he had something as a writer and that he would kind of, how we call it today, blow up into this? How was that watching that over the years? Here was this guy you had as a probably beloved writing teacher, a special teacher in high school, but then he all of a sudden achieved this fame after you got out, right?
Right. Well, I think we all knew he was working on stuff, and he had a kind of attitude of kind of maintaining low expectations and joking about ever finally finishing it or getting it done. And so that was in the background. But I was surprised. I mean, I didn't know. I was thrilled to hear it, and then to see it blow up the way it did, and be talked about still today, with so much frequency, was amazing. And so, I was surprised. It was neat to see that something like that could happen. And I was thrilled for him. And he really, I think, got to enjoy, like, maybe a good 20-year period, after going through everything he did and working so hard as a teacher. I mean, I read Teacher Man also, which talked about, some of his early years before Stuyvesant. It was really some very intense stuff. And, so, yeah, I was absolutely thrilled by it.
Yeah. Okay, it's Eric Capstick. He's a cameraman for the fans at Yankee Stadium, and the Yankees are in Cleveland tonight, so you have the night off, I guess, huh?
Yeah, we really need a win. It's been, we're still first along with John's Mets. I think it's the first time in a long time that we've had both New York teams in first. So that's exciting. And the Yankees need a win pretty badly tonight. So hoping we get it in Cleveland.
Okay. So listen, Eric, thanks for coming on. We're going to go back to Billy and we'll talk on.
Awesome. All right. Thanks a lot, guys.
Okay.
Take care.
Thanks.